Never forget this, that even a pebble can cause ripples in the great ocean of fate. What's up guys, I'm Pencil, and we are going to do a breakdown and review of chapter 406 of My Hero Academia, which is known as Understand Your Own Quirk. In this chapter, it has a lot of stuff in it. It is half recap chapter, half continuation of the previous chapter, half elaboration on certain concepts that were hinted at earlier, half I surely should not have this many halves. But regardless, the chapter has a whole bunch of stuff in it, and I want to get to talking, so let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Ending me. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? I love Pencil here. Fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, all for one, bucko, pal, homie, mi amigo. Have you ever heard of the phrase that you played yourself? You did yourself. You really messed up just on your own. Because this entire scenario, this time, this place, this fate wouldn't even happen if you were just a little bit smarter. If you were just a little bit more in character. Bucko, let's just say you did it to yourself. But let's not waste any more time. Let's actually hop into the chapter itself. So open up. We do get to see that, once again, like I mentioned, this chapter is a kind of smooth wrap-up chapter. It's explaining every single plotline that was set up in the massive grand nature of this secondary war, and explaining where everyone is, what has happened. It's a recap. And notably, we've gotten a couple of these. Usually we get these right after a major event ends. I believe we got one after the end of the Todoroki family subplot. We got one at the end of the Toga family subplot. Not Toga family, but Toga subplot. We got one. There was another, but I forget which one it was. There was one more big recap part in these early chapters. I do admit it is a little bit, it's a little bit repetitive, but I understand why Hori does it. It's very much to remind you, like, hey, don't forget, other things are still going on. This is a massive scale war, so things are happening, things are progressing. It's nice to have little progress update points, especially before starts of major events. And obviously, the penultimate battle between Bakugo and All For One is most certainly a grand event. And sure, there's the start of the final battle, arguably in this chapter, but it's much more hinted at. We've sort of been dancing around Midoriya and Shigaraki. It's why, personally, I wouldn't have started the fight. But then I get why Hori started the battle at the point he did, specifically because All For One was still in the narrative. And it's like a weird thing. I still have so many mixed thoughts on All For One being reintegrated back into the series as an active antagonist and leaving the mentor role, in the same way I have my own complicated feelings and issues about Iron Might as a concept and the whole stuff like that. But regardless, I still see the reasoning why Shigaraki vs. Midoriya had to start when it did, because certain context points that happened after the fact really cannot happen unless that battle began. But now it does sort of lead to this slow down, stall out, dragging feeling. At least when Midoriya was flying over the ocean for the half a year, maybe 9 months there was the expectation that he was still getting there. We're not watching other things as the final battle's going on in the background. And Hori didn't have to consistently cut to Shigaraki and Midoriya kind of just so you gonna hit me? Or am I gonna hit you? Oh, I can't hit you? Alright, I'll just chill here then. That's essentially what's happening, and we're going to cover that in a little bit. So, I get why it had to happen, even though I think it leads to a sort of stalling feeling going on. But I think it's a necessity. It's a necessity. But with this being the case, suppression is complete in front of the central hospital. So, this is in reference to the Shoji subplot. That's the third one. That's the third one that I was thinking of. I believe we got a, update of affairs thing after that plotline ended, and that's good. Honestly, especially with extra context of how Hori wrote that, and rereading it myself, that wasn't a very good subplot. And I still remember way back when in an interview he had mentioned he was going to give Shoji a plotline or give Shoji his own moment. I wish it was written a little bit more aware. That's one of the biggest things. With that thing, I forget who said it. I was watching some sort of podcast or some video that was explaining it and why the implications behind the whole Shoji subplot is a little not good. little not good in general. But I will admit this. It does make a decent amount of sense that Hori would. Well, then again, no, because it's clear what that's a whole. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. I likely will not talk about it any more depth from this point on, but it's nice to see that they're wrapping it up. Spinner as a whole, I forget, how did he get wrapped up? I have no idea. But with that being the case, we also get to see that triage for the injured is underway, and the arresters are being transported. So essentially, that whole plot line's done, sealed, cut. That's fine by me. Honestly, I still really like Spinner. I kind of hate what he got reduced to, but you gotta have an antagonist for Shoji somehow, and who else but the mutant of the League of Villains. And of course, we cut back over to Okotu Island. I do kind of wish, like, don't get me wrong, I will take every last whiff, taste, inch of anything that I can get of Kujo Sakamata, but man, I kind of do low-key wish we got an Uraraka panel. I say it every time I talk about reference for my distaste for Uraraka as a character. It's not like I don't like the character in of itself, and not say that she's a bad character. I just feel bad for her. Like, I believe Okotu Island is where the Toga versus Uraraka thing finished. So I do kind of wish we got to see that alongside these two. This is, I believe, a fan character that got added to the anime, but of course, Hori, he loves taking things from the anime and pushing them back into the manga. So I think that's where she comes from. And Kujo Sakamata, Gang Orca, he is a reference to Sakamata, I do believe, from Ogadamakizu, one of Horikoshi's earlier manga, and I love the character design. Obviously, we don't get too much of the character himself, but hey, I'm happy to see him, even if I do wish Uraraka got a little bit of spotlight here. But this is very specifically, in comparison to the other flashbacks to other areas, one thing I will give this, outside of the mention of Shoji here, and the showing of Shoji and Koda, the two major UA students responsible for that plotline, this flashback to other events in particular is meant to show off the other characters, if you know what I mean. Like, we got the one that showed Todoroki, that showed Uraraka, that showed all them. So once again, I understand why Hori, if he's going to do another flashback, he's going to vary it up. He's going to show the other characters that were there. And of course, unfortunately, there just weren't many characters to show here, so Aoyama and Hagakure being shown here is fine enough. Everything is under control on Okotu Island, and the ground zero for the divide and conquer operation is clean. The heroes are being rescued as we speak, which is nice. I guess Hagakure kind of just can't turn on her invisibility properly anymore, so I'm glad someone gave her a coat. I am glad. And I wonder what she's doing. I don't know, the light thing that she's doing here, I'm not sure, but still, nice enough. The fight at the National Takaba area continues. I forget, who even is this person? I don't remember who this person is. I just remember I recognize Otoro and Ryukyu, but I forget who they were supposed to be fighting. I just generally don't remember. I don't think we're ever going to see that, though. It's, like, in the same vein to a lot of people were fearing that, like, Uraraka and her plotline were going to get off-screen. We're not seeing this. There's no way. There's still a much more important thing to cut to, and that gets brought up, not here, but in the third here. So we also get to see that the build-up for La Brava, well, not the build-up, but the setup that was from, I think, about 10 or 15 chapters ago at this point, of La Brava hunting down Skeptic's location, shutting off all Skeptic's communications, and locking them in place. That is wrapped up here. Skeptic did end up getting got by the heroes. Whatever this guy's name is, the Earthquake guy that helped Midoriya fight Muscular recently in the Vigilante arc. He's here showing that for some reason my brain keeps saying, say Mugetsu pencil, say Mugetsu. It's not Mugetsu. But Skeptic recording that Skeptic's been got. And I forget who this guy is. Rabid Dog, it's not Watchdog. It's not Watchdog Man. I know Watchdog Man. That's One Punch Man. But I keep forgetting this guy's name and I'm too lazy to look it up. But with that being the case, we also get to see that the evacuation of Shiketsu through the underground system is now complete, utilizing these two and their quirks, presumably, or they are the two heroes that were doing things there, which is nice enough. I appreciate that. And we see the civilians that got stuck in the malfunctioning block are all safe and on their way. This was a major plot point that was really cooking up around the Todoroki subplot when Dabi was going to go boom and just detonate the entire area. The big concern was like, wait, if Dabi does that, all the innocent people who are trapped in there are going to be cooked alive. And luckily enough, the gang, the crew, the guys, if you will, they were capable of stepping in, saving the crew, saving the squad, which is nice. I'm glad that ended up getting wrapped up. And we see that the ruins of Jaku Hospital are all taken care of. The only major issue, the one thing that I do think we're going to have to cut to before we get, I know a lot of people are like, okay, finally, we're going to get through Bakugo versus All for One, and we're finally going to hop into Midori versus Shigaraki. The one reason I don't think that's going to happen is because of this right here. Kurogiri disappeared, taking Eraserhead and Present Mike with him. That is something we got to wrap up before. I love Aizawa more, well, not more, but as much as the next guy, but there's no way we're going to wrap up his plotline before we wrap up the Midori and Shigaraki plotline. It's just not going to happen. So there is going to be one more cutaway before that. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked after doing the live reaction for 406. We can check it out over on the Patreon for as low as $1 a month, or become a member for as low as $3 a month in order to check that out. I wouldn't be surprised if after this chapter we got a cutaway to that, because it feels interesting that we're bringing that up here, but we don't get a visual. There's no visual what happened or where they went. So I do think that is something that does need to be wrapped up sooner rather than later before we really lock into the ultimate intense battles. And even then, I'll be real, I think Bakugo and All for One shouldn't wrap up before that wraps up. If you know what I'm saying. So like, if that ends up happening in Aizawa and Aizawa and Present Mike and Kurogiri get their wrap up before anyone else, or before Bakugo in particular, that is going to feel a little bit kooky, I'm not going to lie, but I'm just trying to let Hori cook. But allow me to take a sip real quick as we get to see. Still, I still do like Lady Nagant, don't get me wrong, but I feel like in a similar vein to Stars and Stripes, in a similar vein to Rock, and a similar vein to spoilers for another series, I feel like she does kind of get pushed to the side for how much potential she had as a character. But I do appreciate, once again, like I said earlier on this chapter is a sighting of the side characters. I do like how her state and condition is being reminded of. Like, yeah, Lady Nagant, she was not fully healed when she made that shot for Midoriya, and thusly her collapsing here with her last thought, the last thought in her mind being the boy who saved her. I think that's sweet. Another thing I think is sweet is Rocklock being used here to sort of complete the circle. Even though it is a flashback and the circle was completed already off screen, this full mobilization on our part hinges on our faith in Izuku Midoriya. And that's great. Obviously, Rocklock was one of the adults. I was like, hey, guys, hate to say it, but maybe we shouldn't bring kids on this extremely life-threatening and dangerous mission. Just throw that out there. I do like that ultimately even he realized, like, yo, all cards laid bare, putting everything on the table. We gotta have faith in Broski. No matter what. Don't matter he's 15, maybe going on 16. We gotta hope he can stop the pinnacle of all evil. Because if he can't, no one can. If I don't, well, if he doesn't, who will? Dragon? Like, legitimately, they have to rely on him. I do like how Rocklock is the key to that point. And I believe it was Rocklock who informed Nagant of this entire operation, which is very, very sweet. But of course, we do get to see that things are going boom! And Bakugo lunges back into battle, leaving All Might on the roof. I hope he can call somebody. Like, he's clearly not in a good state. Like, he still definitely needs medical help. Like, if we're gonna keep him around, bro does need, like, at least a cast or something. Someone clean him up. All his wounds are gonna get infected. Like, someone get that man off the roof. I get Bakugo had very little time to really consider anything or do much of anything, but Bucko, like phone a friend or something. Like, All Might, get some help, Buster. I almost said Bucko, but let's see. We see that All Might is shocked. He's actually a bit bamboozled by the fact that Bakugo's like so inhumanely fast, especially for a kid who, for all intents and purposes, was just not what 5-10 minutes ago. Like, there's no way that much time has passed since Bakugo has gotten back up. So obviously, seeing that would feel a little bit bamboozling, even for who was once the fastest man alive. And we see that. I'll review 405 if only so I can talk about the headshot stuff in full stuff, not in full stuff, but in full context. But with headshot being alive, however you feel about that, left, right, up, down, whatever you feel. Since he is alive, he actually gives an explanation, a reference to Bakugo's extreme speed. And he's like, well, I have to admit it. At the brink of the end, if only for a brief moment, he left Shigaraki in the dust, which is true. We know Bakugo had his final little blitz of Shigaraki. It didn't do too much damage, and we're going to see that's a kind of continuing motif here in this chapter. Well, not necessarily. He does do damage. All for One is fearful of his explosive power, but in comparison to other characters, Bakugo does kind of get a relatively, I don't want to say a hard nerf, but a soft nerf. Especially in terms of AP. Especially considering where a lot of people were scaling Bakugo before, based on his feats and stuff like that. Him getting what he got in this chapter is just a little bit rough. Maybe this is going to be clarified in 407 or any later chapter that, you know, All for One was just gassing himself up or something, or not gassing Bakugo up appropriately. Hopefully that's the case, because Bakugo would kind of just be a speed type without any, I wouldn't say any real AP, but his AP is going to drop drastically, as you'll see. But we see, Edgeshot explains that on the brink, Bakugo learned something new about his quirk. He got a better understanding of it. And fun fact, I really still don't like Quirk Awakenings, but I'll take it. It's kind of like I've run out of fury for My Academia. My fury meter is empty. Unfortunately, your boy's not Kratos. I cannot manifest the endless fury, and thusly, I'll just take it. You can definitely well, realistically, you could consider this still Bakugo's secondary Quirk Awakening. This isn't a tertiary one or a quaternary one. This is very specifically the second still. It's just that he didn't fully understand it. Utilizing his quirk in a different way with the bracers is very, very nice. And we see that Bakugo is locked in. He's engaged. He's like, yes, keep making use of this side effect. More, don't stop. And we don't get to know what that side effect is, at least not immediately. As All for One sits back in the rubble, and he's like, that's enough. I'll slay him later. And he immediately dips. And I'll give, once again, All for One, for a character who I really, really liked. For a character I really, really liked, I got to admit, his rampant stupidity in his recent appearance, ever since he became an active combatant again. I think I really started to dislike All for One, not only when he took over Shigaraki's body and tried to reassert himself as the main villain, but also when he started fighting again, he started making a bunch of stupid decisions. Especially post the rewind phase. Pre-rewind, you can argue, he didn't really have a choice. But post-rewind phase especially. So seeing him just get up and do the dash, make it go fast, that's a smart thing to do. I can't knock his hustle on that one. That one makes sense. And we see that this dash, this mad dash that he makes, actually does catch the attention of Shigaraki. And, well, this could be a hybrid statement. I'm not exactly sure how much of this is Shigaraki paying attention to All for One and how much of it is Shigaraki paying attention to All Might and or Bakugo. It could literally be all three, ironically enough. But we see as him and Midoriya are kind of just playing patty cake. Like playing patty cake in midair. Shigaraki's like, I'll be honest with you, bucko. I got all the time in the world. which is so true. Like, it's weird to think about. And I've definitely, if there's one person who's been a critic for Shigaraki's general lack of action, and I mentioned it earlier on in this review, the idea that Shigaraki and Midoriya, due to the early start of their battle, I've kind of just been sitting around in midair playing patty cake because their battle cannot end before the other battles end. It's simply a fundamental law of nature. You don't final battle before the final battle, if you know what I mean. I didn't think about it this way, and I'll give Midoriya credit for giving me the idea of thinking like this. Shigaraki has no reason to engage. He really doesn't. He doesn't care about Midoriya. He doesn't care about Midoriya or One for All. He couldn't care less. Realistically, All Might, he'll be tracked down. All for One, he's running out of time automatically. And Bakugo, sure, he got back up, but he can just get got again. Shigaraki has no reason to get active. He could literally just sit there. Simply, sure, go ahead, Midoriya. You may be stronger than me. You may be faster than me. You may even have me in these binds. But there's a difference between you and I. I'm complete. I can regen. I got who knows how many different quirks that bolster my stamina, durability, all that. Bucko, it's your job to figure out how to get rid of me. I don't really gotta care about getting rid of you. One mistake, go ahead. Mess up once. Mess up once. I'm gonna grab you once. I got 5 fingers, dog. I got 5 fingers for you. And you know what? I got these 5 fingers on you, that's it. Go ahead, try it, Bucko. I got these radio waves. I got anything and everything. Bring it, Bucko. Bring it, Bucko. Let's see what you really got. Shigaraki has no reason to engage, and I respect that. The fact that he's just chilling in midair, scratching the side of his face, you know, you're gonna get that itch. He's like, yeah, it's whatever. Take your time, Bucko. Take your time. Figure it out. In fact, go ahead. Game theory on it. Game theory on it live on air right now. I like that. It plays into Shigaraki's once again, and it goes to show with the hair here. Though admittedly the hair is a bit more hardline drawn than how I prefer it for Shigaraki. But the idea of that freedom. Shigaraki's enlightened. Bro's transcended quirks. He is the quirk singularity for all intents and purposes. There's nothing Midoriya can do, and nothing Midoriya would really be willing to do, at least from his perspective, that would actually force Shigaraki to try. So he's literally just willing to go and... Oh, I got punched again. Oh, I got hit again. Well, I'm just regenerating all that off, baby. Like, legitimately, he's good. It is... The onus is entirely on Midoriya to beat him before he runs out of stamina. Because Shigaraki's good. They don't have a accidental built-in win con from the fact that he was woken up early anymore. Bro's perfect. He might as well be perfect cell right now. He absorbed 17 and 18, got their infinite energy and is just able to chill. And we see Midoriya even realize this himself. He's like, but how will I deal with his regeneration, plus Insta-Slay, plus enhanced body? I still don't have an answer, even though I've been keeping distance and avoiding his attacks with danger sense. So yeah. And admittedly, Shigaraki, you can tell by their lack of interaction, he hasn't really gone for too many attacks. That's the thing. Midoriya can sit there in danger sense all he wants to. He can punish Shigaraki all he wants to. He can have a good old time. He can slump and knock Shigaraki so much till it makes him feel better. But outside of that, nothing's going to happen. Nothing at all is going to happen. That's the beautiful thing. It's crazy, but it's beautiful. And the idea that Shigaraki is such a, it is the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. But in this case, the unstoppable force is stoppable, but not by any means of the immovable object. No, simply by the means of the unstoppable force has a fuel in it. It will ultimately run out eventually. And Shigaraki has no reason to push it. Go ahead, Midoriya. Do your worst. And we see that Midoriya realizes that ultimately, in order to overcome the gap, or no, create a bigger gap, because realistically, I don't think it's too blasphemous of a take to say that Midoriya at 120% is the strongest character in the show. I don't think it's too blasphemous to make a statement such as that. So the gap between him and perfected Shigaraki, it's large enough that Shigaraki hasn't been able to touch him with the 5 fingers, hasn't been able to do anything with him with any of his quirks up to this point. But still, Midoriya hasn't really done anything permanent to Shigaraki either. They're just in this awkward little stalemate where Shigaraki's like, go ahead. Just hit me, bro. just hit me, broski. I don't care. And Midoriya's like, I can't hit you, bro. Because if I keep hitting you, I'm just going to keep burning my stamina. But Midoriya decides the best way to overcome this gap, well, not necessarily overcome the gap, but to widen the gap enough that he could either knock Shigaraki out, or maybe if you think he's going with the Gran Torino path, execute Shigaraki, he's going to need to use Gear Shift again. But he says this, my next Gear Shift will be the last, even if it's a short one. The blowback will prevent me from moving again. If I use it, I'll have to end things. So, Midoriya is setting up the idea that, hey, it's either get or be got. Have or have not. I gotta beat him before my body rot. Because now, if I start going, I'm gonna be forced to stop. He's in that rough of a scenario. He's in a pinch. He's in a little bit of a pickle, if you will. He's a little pickled right now. And with that being the case, he's going to risk Gear Shift. And considering, I get why he's going for it, right? Because playing the stall game for Shigaraki forever isn't the wise thing to do, and you might as well finish him off now. Though I do think, like, it's not going to work. Like, we know it's not going to work. And we also know, like, maybe this is just me being a skeptic because it's Hori, and because, like, I don't think the final battle's going to end this quickly. Either A, we're not going to see the ramifications of this final Gear Shift for like 15 more chapters at bare minimum. Or B, he's going to do it, it's not going to work, and then we're going to put this battle on pause again. Like, I don't see the battle ending this quickly. Especially considering Don't get me wrong, I know Hori hasn't been the best at utilizing the facets of All for One, but I think there's still so many quirks we need to see from Shigaraki. There's still some actual battle we need to see between Midori and Shigaraki. There's still so much more that these two combatants have to offer each other on like an in-narrative level, an out-of-narrative level, and an artistic level, that I do think ultimately this is not going to work. And Midori, he'll find a way to move again. Whether it be through the sacrifice of the One For All users inside him, or there's going to be some way that Midori's going to be able to move again. I don't think this is going to work, nor is he going to actually be immobilized. And then we get this fire. Uh-oh. Is it that time again? Is it glaze Hori o'clock? Because it's time to glaze. So, I gotta glaze my boy Hori here. Beautiful artwork, bro. Beautiful art. I just don't know how the man does it. And I know. Friends have told me, like, he has so many assistants, though. It doesn't matter. The concept, the ability, the utilization of the ability to draw hands. Midoriya literally being a stand user right now, with the second user behind him. All this is gorgeous. I love it. I love it so much. And I love how Midoriya, you can tell he's so intensely locked in. You see his eyebrows are furrowed. He's focused in. He's laser locked on Shigaraki. His hands, they're bursting with energy. He's ready to go crazy with this final gear shift. He's even sweating. Like, bro realized this is it. This, at least in his mind. Obviously, it's not actually gonna happen, but in his mind, this is it. If he fails here, the world falls. But Shigaraki, and his liberation, and his freedom, and his indifference, all he has to offer Midoriya is a big old smile. He's ready to welcome it. He's like, all right, I want to see you try. Which is fantastic. I still love this characterization for Shigaraki. Just a madman who knows he's untouchable. He's untouchable. And even though he just hit his shoulder and he may be touchable, he's not going to be able to be put down. Not by any conventional means. So Midoriya's going to have to find a workaround to that. And I don't think gear shift will be the way. Unless he shifts. If he shifts Shigaraki's cells out of order, or a specific chunk of them remove his heart or something. I have no idea how Midoriya plans to just use gear shift when gear shift wasn't working before. But with it being the case, we see that not only are they told to go, but they're told to go beyond. Plus ultra. And naturally, Bakugo is trying to press that advantage. He's trying to stay on top of All For One. Because the moment All For One leaves Bakugo and he gets back to the main battlefield, either Shigaraki's getting swapped, he's getting back up, or something gonna happen. So Bakugo knows he has to keep all eyes focused on All For One. And All For One is like, I swear, I'm getting sick and tired of you filthy, dumb, bubblegum, disgusting heroes. I'm getting tired of it. And we see he decides to do the dash and make it go fast. He immediately gets out of there. Because, once again, he's running on a very strict timer now. Every second that passes is the second he was not going to be able to get back. And Bakugo was shocked, but not too surprised, that ultimately, darn it, ignored once again. He's went beyond me, literally. And we see that we get the hardline nerf for Bakugo. And we gotta nerf my boy like that, though? Why we gotta nerf my third favorite character like that? Why? Why, Hori? Why? Dog, what? All For One essentially makes a statement that, hey, I'm gonna be real with you, bucko. He may be fast, he may be speed. Ooh, you gotta come with me, bucko. You gotta come with me. He may be fast, he may be speedy, he may be all of that, but he just ain't got that blade on him. He ain't built like Endeavor or Dark Shadow, which is wild to me. I don't know. Something about it. Usually, I thought MHA was the kind of verse where stats correlate universally. You get faster, you get stronger, all that. But no. It seems like despite Bakugo having most likely a quite definitive speed advantage over Dark Shadow and Endeavor, thanks to his new abilities, ultimately he's weaker than both of them. Now, of course, not as strong as a lot of connotations. One of my friends is literally the exact same size as me, but he goes to the gym just a bit more. I am not as strong as him, but if he can casually curl 25 pounders. I can casually curl 20 pounders. Like I'm weaker than him by a percentage, but not as strong. Doesn't mean Bakugo's fodder or anything, but it's hard. It's going to be hard to get him up to them All Might level of striking force. And that's what he really needs cross-verse. Like, Bakugo's speed is fantastic, but this essentially means that even at his peak of peaks, he's not even All Might level. And that's a little bit unfortunate. Or not even Dark Shadow or Endeavor level, which may be better or worse than All Might level, depending on how you want to interpret All Might level. So that's a bit of a harsh nerf coming from All For One. A soft balance patch being dropped on him is a little bit rough. But with that being the case, we see that All For One's like, forget about it. Forget about it. I'm moving, rolling around at the feet of that. Gotta follow my rainbow. Can't look around, gotta keep moving on. It's full speed ahead, only one way to find out. I just keep moving ahead. Don't time for questions, follow my lead instead. You know what I need to be. I need to take over Shigaraki. Follow me, set me free. Trust in me, we will escape from the kiddies. I'll make it through. Just follow me. I'm sorry. I went way too deep into that parody. But with that being the case, he's just trying to escape. He's trying to get gone, right? Because with this limited time period, even with his AP being lower than Endeavor and Dark Shadow, ultimately All For One's durability is also way lower than what it was. Way lower than what it was then, when he was fighting those two. So thusly, even just taking slight grazes, a smack from the face from Bakugo may destroy his head. May destroy his back, his arms, his legs. Like, he's still in danger. And ultimately, the more and more danger he's in, what in the world, Buckaroo? But ultimately, the danger he's in, the more and more danger he's in, per se, that's gonna end up messing him up in the long run, and he's gonna keep running down that rewind timer. And now it's finally clicking with him, right? Because he was worried about All Might. He was worried about All Might detonating his head. But All Might could just do that once. Say All Might didn't get caught by All For One. We see that All For One's able to recover from that. But Bakugo can just keep doing that. Keep dropping it on his dome piece like that. And ultimately, that's not good for All For One. And I like how the urgency's finally kicking in. You know, all the confidence, all the bravado, all the idiocy that came with this incarnation of All For One, it's all finally fading away. Because now with the regeneration process, the rewind process speeding up with every little bit of damage he takes, and he's getting closer and closer to a youngin', bro, maybe a 5-year-old the next time you see him, he's knowing that he's running out of time to get rid of Shigaraki and install himself as the dominant personality within Shigaraki's body. So the urgency, I like it. Seeing a desperate All For One is great. And once again, seeing him go into this existential crisis of like, how is this even happening? What is going on? How are these pebbles, these rocks, these insignificant beings, how are they able to do this to me? How can this pebble get in my way? I have no reason to fear a pebble. But we see this pebble is currently lost so far in the sauce. It's actually insane. Bro, it's gone. Whatever Bakugo's on, I don't want it. Because we know what Bakugo's on now. He's on his own sweat. And I don't want that. But we see with glowing, sparking eyes, which look, once again, they still look super similar to the One For All eyes. And I wonder if that's just a callback to the second movie, Heroes Rising, where he actually was a vessel of a One For All for a little bit. Or if it's literally like, are his like eye vessels or his pupils just detonating? Like the sweat has permeated that much that even his tears are low-key becoming like nitroglycerin. I don't know, but he is lost in the sauce. And we see that Bakugo realizes the way he's able to consistently get these speed boosts, these secondary explosions, these extra. I was about to make a terrible joke, but these extra bursts of speed is all because of the pain he's experiencing. He's getting these explosive bits of growth because when the sweat concentrated into the palms is unable to like go anywhere, he's not using it, and it courses throughout his entire body. Since it's nitroglycerin, or at least close enough to nitroglycerin, it burns. It's like it's burning through his body, which is causing his body to twitch even faster, to twinge even more. His fast twitch muscles are burning faster and faster and faster, which is going to cause him to sweat more and more and more. And the delayed explosion effect is essentially going to allow him to double burst, as he calls it, secondary explosions. When the sweat concentrated on the palms flows through my whole body, it hurts. It hurts like heck. But where it does hurt the most, what interval between the twinges? Mastering that is the key to unleashing secondary explosions. So essentially an explosion within an explosion. It's kind of like, I don't know how to explain it in reference to think of it, just double supers, like double supers from fighters. You fire off one level 1, then you tag in another character to stack that level 1 on top of the level 1. The opponent is gonna be getting hit twice at the same time. So that's basically the same thing. The beams are overlapping. He's crossing the streams right now in terms of his sweat streams, and that's creating the secondary explosion effect, which is giving him such intense speed. Of course, the byproduct of that is the pain, though, which is not the best of things. I really wonder how the boy's going to recover after this, and he's going to end up like a Penance type character from Marvel, where he's going to live, breathe, and exist only with the pain. Maybe he and Nagato can be great friends. But with that being the case, we see that he's not going to let All For One escape, as he booms right over to All For One. Really, I get why All For One's looking ugly, or is very specifically doing that on purpose, but dog. And I know y'all going to be like, well, that's the pot calling the kettle black, but like, yeah, I get it. I have a massive forehead too. But bro is all forehead. What in the world? I could make pancakes on that griddle. What the heck? Bro, put it away. Put that thing away, broski. But we see Bakugo immediately booms and catches right up to All For One. And All For One's bamboozled, right? Because like, this is a random. like for all those purposes. This isn't a one for all user. This isn't a previous one for all user. This isn't Dark Shadow. This isn't Endeavor. This isn't anything crazy like that. It's just a random kid that he's one-tapped multiple times in the past. But suddenly he's appearing and he's actually causing trouble. And we see that Bakugo, once again, he's off the za. I can't imagine. His adrenaline must be like through the roof. The moment this battle's over, he's going to, I know for a fact, he's going to have to drop. Because he says, I'm so foul. I can't even stop. Oh, shoot, it hurts so much. I do love that. The pain is actually a genuine thing. It's causing him to verbalize the agony, even though he's still fighting forward. And we see that Bakugo is just causing so much confusion to All For One, right? Because he's like, who even are you? Who? He's just getting hit with the who? And it makes extra sense because when you think about it, technically this All For One never really interacted with Bakugo. It really did. We know the All For Ones don't actually share a hive mind. The quirk copies, they just aren't really things. So this All For One never actually met Bakugo. Because remember, it was always the All For One copy in Shigaraki's original All For One. That is the one that interacted with Bakugo. That's the one that one-shot him in the first war, that one-shotted him in the second awakening he had here. So this is the real All For One's, the original's first meeting with Bakugo. And it's causing him so much confusion because he doesn't know who this kid is. Even if he did have the context of the previous one-shots. That's the thing, they were one-shots. How is this kid keeping up with them and causing him so much trouble? But we see that Bakugo now isn't even, before when he was on the brink, he was like, dude, can I still even catch up to you? Are we even in the same tier anymore? Which is something, you can go back way on the channel. I talked about why I think Bakugo versus Midoriya is a failed rivalry. There is no rivalry there. These two gentlemen are not the same. But we see that in this moment, due to his awakening, due to his further understanding, due to his own, ironically enough, in a similar vein to Shigaraki, transcendence, he feels like he can even surpass Midoriya now. Will he? No. But he feels like he can because of how much farther he's come from where he was before, which I think is fantastic. And I love that in this moment where everything should be falling apart for him, where everything should literally, he's in literal physical and mental agony right now. None of that matters. None of that matters but the thrill of the hunt and the fact that he's able to do what he wants to do. As he said in last chapter, which I'll still review in 405, when Midoriya can't step in, he's the one who will take center stage. And I think that's great. And of course, we cut away to the parents of this pebble. And the father, what's the father's name? I'm going to look at the father's name right now. Google it, don't fail me now. Father, Baku dad. Bakugo, father. Please, Matsuru Bakugo. We see that Mitsuki is watching the screen, watching the live stream, and she tells him, dear, Katsuki is, and Masaru being the dad, and admittedly, I've definitely turned into this kind of father, especially if my kid went into any sort of like dangerous profession or anything like that. He's like, no, I can't look. He's fighting that guy. And like, imagine Imagine sending your kid, or even not your kid, because I know maybe some of y'all don't have kids. Heck, I don't have kids, so I can't say this. But imagine sending a younger one that you care for, whether it be a younger family member, whether it be a younger friend, and you send them to fight, I don't know, who's the best MMA fighter in the world? You send them to fight them. Sure, maybe they've trained their entire life for it, but you're still going to be worried for them. You're still going to be scared. You don't want to watch that because you assume what's going to happen. When you see Mitsuki, of course, she has so much faith in her son. She's like, no, we have to watch it. Because right now, our kid must be smiling like he always does. And of course, Bakugo has that manic smile. I do really like the Bakugo family. I think overall, if I had to talk like as a net thing, Endeavor alone clears the entire Bakugo family. But I do like the Bakugo family as a collective more than I do the Todoroki family. And it is sweet to see the faith that Mitsuki has in her child. And it's also realistic. I like the realistic angle of Masaru not wanting to watch it out of fear for his child. Both are entirely valid in their own ideals, and I like how they're, regardless, the faith in Bakugo is still there. When you see that All For One, he's genuinely confused. He's like, it's happening again. Why? Why is this pebble making me angrier than All Might? Which is admittedly something I kind of don't like. I don't like the end of the chapter for that one thing. I don't like how All Might's vitriol is being redirected to somebody else, especially someone who is relatively minor within the narrative of the grand scheme of things. I get why he's important as a background character, the second user, Kudo, but like, I still like the idea that All Might, the truly quirkless man, is the one who brought the most anger and vitriol out of All For One. Though admittedly, I can chalk this up to hindsight being 2020 for All For One. He's realizing all that hatred and negativity was misplaced, even though it truly was All Might who was the real person who defeated him and put him in his place. Masaru, or not Masaru, but Kudo is the one who truly started this path. The second One For All user. The one who ultimately is the reason All Might even exists, is the reason Midoriya even exists, is the reason all these pebbles can even rise up to form a mountainous wall against the tide of the Demon Lord. And we see that he realizes the reason Bakugo is getting him so nettled is because a common thing that was pointed out by the fandom a lot, Kudo and Bakugo resemble each other a whole lot. You're looking for Yoichi, Demon Lord. He's gone. You slayed him. Feeling hatred means remembering all of this. Though that's why he's to blame. All For One, he's clicking it back now. He's realizing all this negativity, I know why it's here. And he realizes that ultimately, in another world where Kudo did not reach out his hand to Yoichi, did not cause that connection, this scenario would not be happening. The one he hates the most, as this explosion goes off, All For One screams, "It's all your fault, Kudo." Sorry, Kudo, not Kudo. I don't know why I was calling him Kudo. But as he detonates and heals, he gets angry. And of course, Bakugo, the individual, he's like, you going a little bit senile, Gramps? I'm Kachan of the Bakugos, you fool. I love how he uses Kachan, the sweet, affectionate name. And Bakugo stands forth and taunts All For One, beckoning him forward. Because he's his own person. No matter who he resembles, no matter how much hatred that All For One has for someone he views as more than a pebble, this pebble right here is going to get all in his way. And I think it's fantastic. Overall, a massively long sword. I had that one in my lap. A massively W chapter. Outside of my one little gripe of the hatred of All For One being misdirected away from All Might, I do appreciate all the extra characterization. I think this is the first time we actually get a name drop for the second user of All For One. He's got One For All. He's kind of just been that. I think we've had Yoichi's name for a while now, though, but this chapter is good. I love the character work for Bakugo. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Quirk Awakenings as a mechanic, the way it's being explained, I like it. Bakugo and All For One's dynamic is very, very interesting. The way it plays into the past with Kudo, the way that Shigaraki and Midoriya, the way their stalling is being rationalized as Shigaraki's general indifference to the conflict. He's like, there's no reason for me to engage. I like that characterization for it, and overall, it's just a very, very W chapter. However, that's what I think. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave the explosive secondary man. Actually, just the explosive second. The explosive secondary man, or the explosive second, in the comment section down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you do not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. Each for as low as $1 a month. You can link exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dabi the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, O'Connor Plays and Red Wolf 4765. I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons, Winter, Victor, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demix LND. I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 member, Autumn's Morning Lazo. I'd like to give another scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idem Okami. I'd like to give another thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. I'd like to give one final thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneel and Calvin Elder.